Hey legends, welcome to Sceammeupbotty, and we're getting into a tasty little original series episode from Star Trek. This is Tomorrow is Yesterday. Fantastic episode. I enjoy this one so much. At the beginning of it, the Enterprise is thrown back to Earth during the 60s by way of a high gravity black star, and it introduces that idea of the slingshot effect around a star that they revisit a few times, even in the movies, whenever they travelled back in time in Star Trek 5, I want to say. So, the Enterprise ends up in the upper atmosphere of Earth, and it's picked up as a UFO, and the radar of the day and the military jet is scrambled to go up and check it out. The effect of the Enterprise in orbit and the actual sky, more or less, it's well done now. I know the effects are updated for these versions of the original series now. But I would love to see what it looked like. This is one of those episodes that I didn't see prior to the effects update that the show got, so it would be interesting to see what it actually looked like back then before the updates. So there's this, the Air Force sent up this interceptor. It's captained by John Christopher. He's flying up after it. He sees the Enterprise and he's reporting back. But on the ship, Captain Kirk orders a tractor beam to be used in the jet, which basically tears it apart. But they transport the pilot aboard the Enterprise before it does happen. Fearing Christopher could disrupt the timeline of return to Earth, Kirk at first decides that the pilot even need to stay with the Enterprise. But when Spock, they're all on board with it, we can't send him back, he's seen too much and whatnot, and Spock was, he looked through the historic files on this man, and he didn't live a life that produced anything that would, be changed if he just disappeared on this day. But Kirk does later discover that the pilot's son will play an important role in a future mission to Saturn, and this is a son that hasn't even born yet. So this guy, this John Christopher, this pilot, he's against Kirk and all on the Enterprise up until he discovers this here, and then he's playing ball with him. But how long is he going to play ball with him is the big question. Kirk realises at this point that Christopher has to be returned to Earth after all. After they also learn of footage that was taken of the Enterprise by the wing cameras in Christopher's jet, Kirk and Sulu beam down to the airbase to recover the film and any evidence of their visit. Just try and, sweep everything under the carpet and get back to their own time and whatnot. They're caught by security, and one of them accidentally activates an emergency signal on Kirk's communicator, and he's beamed aboard the Enterprise. So this is an our problem. This security guy is hilarious in this episode, because he materialises on the transporter platform on the ship, and he's just kind of frozen in place by fear, more or less. And Kirk calls up, and what's going to happen to this guy? And Spock is like, Spock's the first person he sees in the Enterprise, and of course the Vulcaneers and whatnot, and the guy's just like, Spock takes the gun out of his hand, and he stays in the exact same position he was in, and they're just like, I don't think there's going to be much of a problem with this guy at all. So he pretty much hangs about the transporter room throughout the majority of the episode, just been gobsmacked and not knowing what to do with himself. Back at the base, Kirk and Sulu, they're continuing the search. Kirk then, he gets captured, but Sulu escapes back to the Enterprise. Spock, Sulu and Christopher, the pilot, he knows the base layout, and he demands that he be taken down to the base with him to recover Kirk. He's like, I can show you the layout, like I'll give you the layout before Kirk went down, but I know exactly where he's going to be hiding at, or where he's going to be kept at as a prisoner, more or less. But I'm not going to tell you unless you take me with you. So Spock does bring him down after Kirk's guards are subdued. Christopher then turns on them one more time. He grabs one of their guns and demands to be left behind. Just prior to this, Spock went into an office, and Christopher, he reckons he's still in there, but Spock, realising that this was something that was going to happen, he manages to work his way around to behind him, and he knocks him out with the Vulcan nerve pinch, which is always a pleasure to see in the original series of Star Trek. You're just waiting for it, and just, when's it going to happen? Is Spock going to do it? That's class. I love it. One of my favourite parts of watching the original series is Spock getting that nerve punch in on somebody. So after they get everything that they need to get out of the base, and knocking Christopher's ass out again, they return to the ship, and Spock and Scotty inform Kirk of a possible escape method. The slingshot around the sun effect. Again, it's revisited in the movie. All our shows, I'm pretty sure, done it as well. And the series, like Next Generation might have done it. Can't recall offhand, but it's one of these little things that just pops up every once in a while. Definitely did one time in the movies anyway. Yeah, so they'll use that slingshot to go around the sun, break away and return to their time. It's a risky manoeuvre, and any miscalculation could either destroy their ship or make them miss their own time again. They could end up at any time. They could either die or end up at a completely different time out of their timeline again. But Kirk orders the manoeuvre, and time on the Enterprise, you can see the chronometer, if that's the correct name for it, starting to move backwards and getting slower and slower. They do return Christopher back to his fighter jet at the instant that he first encountered the Enterprise, and it was only part of the episode where I kind of came out of it slightly and wondered, how does this work? Because it's just, you see him in the cockpit, and then you get the transporter effect on him, and it just appears over the top and disappears again, and this is meant to be him coming back into the cockpit, and the same with the security guard. He's walking down a corridor. This is supposed to be before he found Kirk and Sulu in the office. Again, transporter effect over him, disappears, and then this is his future version coming back into himself, and it's one of those little effects where you think to yourself, I don't know, he just beamed into his own body, but there's a body already there, and it's one of those slight little disconnects in the episode, but it is what it is. Science fiction at the end of the day, at its finest. Star Trek, can't go wrong with it, brilliant. But for me, in the episode, that was the only part was kind of like, I don't know, could have been a better workaround for that. Yeah, so the security guard's back. Christopher, he's been back into the cockpit of the fighter jet before it was crushed by the Enterprise tractor beam, and he's looking about in the sky, and there's no Enterprise this time. So yeah, that erases the memory of both of them as well, the time in the Enterprise. So whatever happened throughout this episode, as far as the crew of the Enterprise goes, the ship itself, all the evidence was captured, and the slingshot effect, and when they're springing back from it, they beam these guys out at a certain time to set them back onto their own timeline again. Everything's fine and well. It's just a matter of getting this manoeuvre finished and back to their own time period. So, of course, the Enterprise does successfully return to the 23rd century, and, at the beginning of the episode, whenever they turned up in the 60s, they were trying to contact Starfleet, and of course there's nothing there because there is no Starfleet at this point in history. So when they get back to their own time, first thing they do is try and contact, and you hear on the radio intercoms and whatever, you can hear the chatter of Starfleet and whatnot, and Kirk's like, yeah, the Enterprise has returned. Fantastic little episode, and I just bombed through this review a lot quicker than I was expecting to do. But it's one of these episodes where it's very interesting, very entertaining, but not a heck of a lot really happened in it as far as drama and that sort of thing went. It was just cool to see the Enterprise inside the atmosphere for once. And I'm going to have to actually see if I can find a version of this episode online anywhere where it has the original effects of the time instead of the updated effects, because you just like to see how they looked, because if memory serves properly, they weren't great compared to the upgraded effects that's on the show now. And in the credits of a lot of the episodes, you do get to see those old visual effects. Whenever they're putting up the credits at the end of the episode, you have the screenshots of different parts of the episode and different parts of the series and whatnot. And there is some shots of the Enterprise in space, and you can really, it really jumps out at how much the effects were actually updated for the version of Star Trek that's available online at the moment. Fantastic episode, fantastic series. It's hard to beat the original series. It is absolutely brilliant. The acting in this was fantastic as well, I have to say now. Roger Perry as Captain John Christopher was brilliant. Hal Lynch, Air Police Sergeant, he was very good on it as well. Where's this other guy? I take it to be, he's on the notes here. It says USAF Air Policeman Jim Spencer. I reckon that was the guy that was beamed up whenever he accidentally tripped the emergency on Kirk's communicator or whatever it was. And there's just a few moments with him whenever he did appear in the episode a couple of times, as I say, frozen and on the spot. And he just pretty much hung about the transporter room the whole time. There's people beaming in and out, and he was just taking it all in, and he was just like, what the heck's going on here? Just couldn't process it. And then there's one moment where the guy that was working the transporter panel asks him if he's hungry, and he jokingly says chicken soup or something ridiculous like that, and the guy uses the replicator and brings him out a piping hot plate of soup. Good little comedy moments in this episode, I have to say now, but fantastic all around. Other than that beam back effect at the end of it, kind of feel that there could have been a slightly, although it does make a hell of a lot of sense within the episode and the way they do it, but just part of me is kind of like, that's the only weak part of this episode. But absolutely love this episode, so good. Right, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Very swift one tonight. Trying to get caught up on my uploads again. I'm badly out of my schedule at the moment. And again, if you heard the last episode of Sceam Me Up Botty, it's all Star Trek's fault. I fell down the rabbit hole of episodes on TV today. Just that was it. Game over for the majority of the day. Sat in my ass watching The Next Generation. But it is what it is, and we're uploading now, and we're going to keep at it as often as we can, and I hope that you're enjoying the show as much as I'm enjoying actually making the show at the moment. So whatever you're doing, guys, do it safe, and I'll talk to you next episode. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you so much for listening.